I think sometimes, Priscilla, when we go back to visit places that have special meaning for us, we leave our own energy and our own, love and spaces of our own magic behind, and they get ingested by the trees, and all of that, goodness and kindness comes up, and the trees feel that the space of gratitude and love from their human counterparts that come.
I agree. I agree. It's like if you like temples or churches, or places where people go to have some sort of, like you said, offering, or I don't know the right word really, but where people have been over time, a period of time, there is like an energy that builds there from the presence of those who've been there before.
Oh, how about sacredness? A sacredness in a grove.
Yeah.
Welcome to Cloud Moon New Beginnings, Episode 18. Today, we're looking at the soothing nature of trees, and we have two visiting friends who will each be reading one of their poems. First, we will hear from David Johnston, and then from Stephanie Petrie as she reads from her book, Wild Poems. In the meantime, I'd like to read a little poem from Patty Blakesley. In my backyard, leaning back in my blue canvas lawn chair on that last night, I surveyed the familiar slope of my lawn. The muscles in my shoulders eased after days of packing, lifting, and lugging. The sun was close to setting, and the familiar view soothed me. The tall pines, their tops in sunlight, swayed in the breeze. Robins cocked their heads, listening for worms under the fresh-cut grass. Hidden birds sang melodies of dusk from flowering shrubs. I grabbed the smooth wooden arms of the chair and leaned forward to inhale the scent of spring. I watched the shifting patterns of sun and shade. I thought I might sit there until the green faded to gray and the streetlight reflected off my neighbor's yellow house. I felt the air embracing me. As twilight came, I thought of Louis Agassiz, a classic biologist. Despite his stand against evolution, he was the most famous American scientist at the time of his death in 1873 because he had brought science to the common man. He was a professor at Harvard, and maybe it was a brash student who asked him what he had done on his summer vacation. He famously answered that he had spent the whole summer traveling. He got halfway across his backyard. Finally, I rose and went inside for the last time. This reminds me of the quiet, the pause that often gifts us poetry. And so let's go forward to hear from David and Stephanie.
So thank you, David. I really appreciate you coming to record your poem here, and I love collaboration, and so thank you for coming and sharing your poem about the willow tree. Is there anything you'd like to share about this poem before you read it to us?
Yeah, the red willow it's a sacred tree. Well, as all trees are sacred, and yet the willow has a special meaning to me because of the sweat lodge and my years in sweat lodge with my mentor, Dr. Morris Knapp, and we would go out in spring, and we would, at the beginning of spring, on the spring equinox, we would rebuild the sweat lodge, and we would go to this wetlands area that this generous farmer allowed us to come in, and he had a grove of, I guess you call them groves, of willow trees, and we would go in there and with prayer and tobacco and go in, and we would ask the willow trees which one wanted to come and be the lodge for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You would touch them, and you would know which ones wanted to go and which ones didn't. It was a sacred thing, and we would gather the willows, and then we would go back and we would build the lodge and have a sweat that night. It was a full day process. It was a beautiful ritual, and so then that lodge would in essence mother us for a year, because going into sweat lodge is like going into the womb, and you would do once every moon, and pray and purify. So so the willow is like a mother tree to me. So, and has so much meaning, and its resilience and able to be adaptable and grow in wetland areas and other areas, and it's just a beautiful tree. So I'd been thinking about writing a poem about the willow for a while, and I had a few fits and starts, and nothing came up. And one morning I was getting ready to leave, and it just came in, and I was like, grabbed a pen, and this pretty much came out almost all as it is. And then I just did a slight editing here recently and added something about photosynthesis, because trees need. I was like, well, there was something missing in it. So anyway, I will read it for you.
Great. Thank you, David.
So the title of this poem is called "The Song of the Red Willow." Bent by the river of time, I do not break. At times, limbs may get broken, as if by a heavy weight, fallen. My tender, slender, tapered leaves still seek the light of the eternal sun. My roots reach deep, seeking the ley lines of interconnectedness to the universe that I am. The deep, deep furrows of my bark carry the shadowed memories of my mothers, grandmothers, fathers' trees. Memories, so many deeply furrowed memories, shimmer in the sap of my being. Memories of land, sand, light, and water, lightning, thunder, wind, and rain. The imprint of the many tidy feeted ones that use my furrows as a home, give imprints of their gifts to this diverse world that I am. Birds nesting in my branches, flowering seedlings spreading this way and that, my very essence. The eternally shifting river of time runs through the fibers of my very being. The light of the sun photosynthesizing my presence, echoing it out into this river of time. Bent, I do not break. At times, broken, I still seek.
Thank you, David, for reading your poem. And next we take a moment with Stephanie.
I'm very happy to welcome you, Stephanie, to read one of your poems. Is there anything that you would like to share about the poem you're going to read, or?
I'd love to, Priscilla. My poem is called Gold in the San Francisco Peaks, and the San Francisco Peaks are in Flagstaff, Arizona. In the fall, the forests are full of aspen trees, and the aspen trees, their leaves have like a tinkling sound and bells, and it was always so special and magical. I've lived here for over 20 years to go up in the fall and to just walk inside of all of the aspen trees. It was like being in a fairy glen, and as the golden leaves and the wind would come through and they'd blow the leaves around. It was like being in a magical place where anything was possible. And that's what I really felt when I sat down to write this, and how, very fortunate and grateful I feel each time I'm able to go up there and to see these majestic trees with their white and silver and all the different tones of color, with the sun coming down through them, and they're sparkling. So it was very special. Very special.
Oh, beautiful. So they actually make a little sound. Is this when they're actually yellow for the autumn? And then particularly?
Particularly, yes, they do. They sound like bells tinkling all around you, but it's very gentle, and it's just it feels, actually, it feels nourishing. And that's probably one of the reasons I love it so much. And plus, the trees are huge. I mean, the root base and going up most of the aspens, I mean, they might be more than 60 feet tall. And it's just a canopy of gold that's fluttering around you. And they inspired me, and their presence, which is so full of grace, just really moves me each time I go up there. That special feeling of connecting, with the earth that we live on. And the aspen trees are in such a special place at the top of San Francisco Peaks in a grove. And it just looks like a community of people, and they're all just uh, they're all just there at that moment in time, and the leaves have turned and it's gold, and there's music around from the leaves. It's a celebration, and I guess I hadn't thought about it that way until we were talking about it, but it's a celebration of life and a celebration of all of our connectedness, how we're all connected, trees and people and animals.
It sounds really beautiful.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you for reading your poem, Gold in the San Francisco Peaks.
Gold in the San Francisco Peaks. Every October and early fall, I drive up the winding mountain road, my ears popping through old forests filled with pines, delicate brown lacy ferns covering the still rich earth to reach the summit, San Francisco Peaks. In awe I stare. A mountaintop, majestic field of startling white, moonlight glowing trunks, strewn with endless yellow gold petals that float softly in the breeze. There is no finer exquisite beauty than a plateau of sunshine-colored leaves and the dancing bodies of aspens calling to share their moment of becoming. The sky above them, a rich, deep azure, painted with small birds. Flocks of wild turkeys graze, filling their bellies with autumn food, heads bobbing, necks swaying, showing themselves to those who pay homage in a forest of glowing fall maturity. I would not miss this, a display of nature shining from within, sharing treasures with all who venture out, early fall aspens, leaves flirting in the wind, laughing as it willingly divests its gold, landing on your feet, fairy dust on a forest floor. Can you see us? Trees whisper through tunnels of leaves, crinkling in a swirling outburst as the wind kicks up. I'm pulled tight, held inside the grove. I look around. Now it's just me and the aspens. I take a step back and look up in this forest shaken with goblets of amber light. I flitter and flutter, a childlike wonder, remembering how I felt to be free and accepted.
Thank you, Stephanie, for your beautiful poem. And thank you all for joining us on Cloud Moon New Beginnings. If you would like more information about Stephanie and David and Patty, please check the comments below the video. Wishing you some quiet moments among the trees. Thank you for joining us. A new post every Saturday.